Get up in the morning, I said, look, unto God, I saw an alien standing by the bed last night. He asked me how they did the abduction. And he said that it was very easy when you know how. And he said, we just simply put a shapeshifter in the car to drive while she was in the ship. Their base ship is as big as the United States. They have it hidden behind Saturn right now. We've been working with aliens for a long time. There are actual places where they work with them. There's Palladians in our government. They're everywhere.
Today we are talking with Barry Strom. Barry is a psychic medium and a channel. He is also the author of 10 books on a wide variety of topics such as Muhammad, Jesus, angels, aliens, as well as conspiracy theories. Barry also hosts a podcast, a radio show, and a YouTube channel. And with all of that, he has found time to visit with us today. So welcome, Barry. We are happy to have you here and joining with us today.
Well, I'm very happy to be with you. Thank you.
So, Barry, I understand that you channel quite a few different entities and you receive information from all these entities. Can you tell us how and when did this get started for you?
Well, the channeling part actually started about 15 years ago. I never really even believed in ghosts till I was 60. But I had what I guess best could be described as a ghost condominium antique gallery up in Pennsylvania. And we had so many spirits, I was really, really convinced. I started like everybody else does, doing paranormal investigations and with a ghost box and trying to talk to them and prove that they're there. And then at the store, I realized that we had a portal in the basement and that we could literally go down and talk to these ghosts or speak to them or see them anytime you wanted to do it. I had an infrared camera on the portal, and we'd actually watch them coming in and out of the store, passing through the wall. And we had orbs everywhere. And I know people say they aren't ghosts, but we had orbs that were so friendly with us that I could ask them to do a loop-de-loop in front of somebody, and they would do a loop-de-loop, and you could see it on the camera. We became very friendly with all the ghosts that were there. I was introduced to some people that were doing board channeling, and I decided this looks really interesting. So they were in Salt Lake City. So they invited me to come to one of their channeling sessions one time. I went in, and they had a special board. It wasn't a Ouija. It was a circular board, letters, numbers around the outside. They had a prayer went with it and everything. And I mean, had glass on top of it. And they would actually put their fingers on a shot glass. And it would be glass on glass, and they would have lemon oil. So this thing was flying for them, going back and forth, and they were calling the letters out. So I went and I sit down for the session, and they get on the board, and the first message comes back is, "Hello, Barry, we were waiting for you." Then they proceeded to tell me about everything I was doing back in Pennsylvania, which they had absolutely no knowledge of, the people that were on the board. And I was completely blown away with this because they were speaking with spirits and they were telling me things that only I knew. So it was fairly obvious that there was a lot to this. I made a board up. They gave Connie and I lessons, and we started to try to perfect using this board. And it was difficult for us. It probably took us 2 years of work. But finally, we reached a point that we could receive messages and that we could talk to them, and that they would spell the words out for us. We got really fast at it. All of a sudden, I started to realize that when I would hit the first letter of a word, I would hear the word in my head. I was using a channeling board almost as fast as I could speak. And then the guide said, well, you don't need the board. Why don't you just speak the words when you hear them? So I started just simply speaking the words, and we didn't use the board anymore. And that's really where we are now with all our shows and things, is I can just simply sit and speak the words to the spirit and say the words. And I'll have absolutely no idea what we're doing. When I sit down and do the podcast, I don't know what subject matter will be. And I just sit there and speak. Our one show, Channeling History, we bring in historic spirits. And I have a very unique ability in that I can basically channel with any spirit you want to talk to. Now, we never do anything evil. The first command they ever gave us when we were learning was never do evil. Don't ask for it, stay away from it. And they actually gave us a prayer of protection that we use. And we're very, very careful what we do. So we've never done any evil people like a Stalin or a Hitler or anything like that. But we've done hundreds of historic figures. We've channeled figures as far back as Socrates. We've been doing that show over 3 years now. So we've got a couple hundred different shows up on channeling history. We've done roundtable discussions with ghosts where we'll have 3 different ghosts on. We've done it with Supreme Court justices. We had Ginsburg, Scalia, and I forget who the third one was. But we'd throw one question up, and then we channel the answer from each of those 3 different judges. So we've done all kinds of things with this. It's a lot of people think it's not possible, but it is.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. I have 1,000 questions. My first one is, what is your understanding of a ghost or a spirit? Meaning, let me articulate that. What is their life on that side? Have you ever seen that movie, The Others, where they're both living in the same house, but they don't necessarily, not all of them can see the other people? Like, what's your understanding of their life?
Well, it's fairly complex.
Yeah.
There's multiple dimensions. What we refer to as heaven is all around us. It's just simply another dimension. Now, when you pass, your body dies, your soul energy immediately leaves. Now, it might be that it's a sudden death. It catches the spirit off guard. They don't want to leave. Maybe they have loved ones on earth they don't want to leave. Or in the case of the Civil War soldiers on the battlefield of Gettysburg, I've actually channeled with the soldiers that fought there. I've asked them, I said, why don't you guys move on? And they said, because the damn Yankees are still here. So, and then he tells me, you better duck behind this tree. They're still shooting at us. So they're in this other dimension. We've channeled Civil War colonel one night that didn't know he had died. He was in the channel of the unknowing dead. We were sitting at a table on the battlefield. It was 4th of July. It was off the field. We were at a friend's house, and we were flying a Confederate flag because we were on the Confederate retreat route, and we wanted to try to speak with Confederates. So this guy comes in, and the first thing he says is, what is this manner of dress? I don't understand. The women were wearing shorts and baseball caps, and it was, July 4th. And the guy thought he had just left Gettysburg. He was in charge of guarding the rear of the column, and he had his men with him. We asked him to bring his men up. I have a picture of a Confederate soldier looking at the Confederate flag. And all of his men, they didn't know they were dead either. So it's these different dimensions. So some of them don't move on. You're going to be judged for how you lived your life. Many of the spirits are afraid how they're going to be judged, so they may remain in place. We had an oil painting in the store where the spirit had an incredibly strong attachment, and he didn't leave his picture. And whenever anybody with psychic ability would come by, he would stop them and tell them that he did not like the music that we played in the store. One day I was up front, and this woman comes up, and she says that I have something back here that's speaking with me, and I'd like to buy it. I walk back, and it's the oil painting. And I said, would you tell me exactly how this item is speaking to you? And she said, well, I'm a psychic, and he's telling me that he hates the music here, and would you please take me home where he would be a lot happier? So she buys a $1,500 oil painting because the ghost was talking to her. So I mean, there's just simply all types of different.
Okay, I have to ask on that one. Did you ever follow up with her to find out if she continued conversations with the spirit attached to the oil painting once she took it home?
She never came back in, but I assume she did. If you're stepping up with $1,500, you're going to keep talking to it. So you already paid the admission.
A
I think
$1,500
most
fine.
people, most people would run for the hills if they
Right.
felt like a painting was haunted, but this woman wanted to take it home with her.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had another bizarre story. We had a mirror with an incredible attachment to it. We had the professional team come in, and they took a picture of this mirror, and you can see the male investigator standing right in the center, and over his shoulder, you have this incredible image of a woman looking over his shoulder, and you have another half image from eye level up of hair and eyes looking over his other shoulder. It was two ghosts. But this image was so strong, we thought it was one of the team members. I mean, it's one of the best ghost pictures we've ever had. She was attached to the mirror. Well, we sold the mirror. And the guy lived down in West Virginia that bought it. Comes in the store about 6 months later. I said, how's the mirror working for you? He says, great, but I've had some really bad luck. I said, what happened? He said, my house burned down. Oh, shit. You know what's coming now? I sell the guy a haunted mirror and his house burns down. This is not going to be a good story.
You're like, you did sign the liability form before you left.
So anyway, he says the house catches fire and the police come. They think they put the fire out and they leave and it reignites and burns the house down. He said, but you know what? When the police came the first time, they carried the mirror out of the house. They said that a woman had said, would you please carry me out? The house is on fire. So they did her a favor. They picked the mirror up and took it outside where it was safe. And that was the only thing that survived the house fire. And that ghost had formed to tell the firemen, please take me out of the house.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Holy moly. That is a great
Wow.
story.
I got so involved with the battlefield that my first book was called Haunting and History of the Battle of Gettysburg. And I put 220 of these ghost pictures I took in that first book. That's really how I got started writing books, was with the photography side of it. But no,
Wow.
I had incredible things happen over there. Life is so much more complex. One thing I'm always telling anybody is the more that I learn, the more I realize how little I know.
Well said.
I mean, it's every day I learn something.
Switching gears, what can you tell us about out-of-body experiences?
You always have free will on both sides, in your incarnate lives and in your spirit life, once your soul goes over. So when a soul decides that it's going to come back, you will have a life plan. The guides will give you the lessons that you need to learn, and you actually lay this life plan out. That's why people are soulmates. Two souls will come back together, and in your life plan, they had to jump through loops for Connie and I to meet each other. But we'll have our 60th anniversary in December. But they jumped through loops to put this thing together that we would meet. You have this complex life plan. In most life plans, you have multiple exit points of death, where something could happen. They may intervene and so that it doesn't happen, but you have multiple choice points. So in most NDEs, that body is at an exit point. So what it does, the soul passes. As soon as the heart stops, the soul comes out and it will go to the other side. It has a choice. It hasn't totally entered, but it'll be told. Often they'll give you a look at the future. If it's a choice point, then they'll give the soul the chance to come back and return. Now, anybody that says an NDE, they've only made one choice. They've decided to return. So many souls are given the choice, and since heaven is such a nice place, where there may be they may be sick or whatever, they choose to stay in heaven. Now, there's no time in heaven. So they may be over there for a much longer human time. They do many, many different things in these NDEs, but there's generally no two stories the same. Like an atheist may actually have an exit point. I mean, some atheists, when they go over there, are nothing but darkness. Well, that's because that's what they expected, nothing. so they get nothing. But they had the choice to come back, and perhaps they were given the choice that they could live a better life by going back and fulfilling their life plan, because they were told, you have not fulfilled your life plan, you're wasting it. So they make the choice to go back. So that's why you'll see atheists or agnostics have NDEs. It may be that a person is helping many others and doing great things. They may be encouraged to come back and to keep doing that. And there may be miracles. I mean, you may be at a final exit point, and because you're doing really good things and God wants you to do more things, they'll send you back and perform a miracle. I mean, I've had a complete medical miracle performed on me. He healed a heart attack. That's why at 82 years old, I'm sitting there trying to tell people about the afterlife. It's just, as I say, the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know.
So what is the purpose of religion on earth, as you're speaking of atheists, agnostics, and being, you grew up religious yourself, in all of this that we're talking about?
Every religion has been changed through the years, through translational changes. I can speak to you about Muhammad because I wrote a book about his life that he channeled and gave to me. When these prophets, the Buddhas, I mean, all of them, nobody wrote these guys down word for word. When everything was done from memory, I think the earliest writing about Christ goes to about 70 AD. Well, he died in 30 AD, so that's 2 generations. So you have 2 generations there that the memory's changed. And that's why you see the different gospels that are so different, is because the memory factors are so different. So there is actually one underlying law of all religions, and it's do not do anything to anyone you do not want done to yourself.
The golden rule.
The golden rule is the underlying fact. Now, there is a huge difference between religions and belief and spiritual belief. A person can grow up and have never heard of Jesus, so they would never hear the fact of people in Christianity saying that the only way to go to heaven is by being a Christian. Any religion that tells you that they're the only gateway is lying to you. Now, I can see a lot of people getting irritated at this point, but that's the way it is. All souls go to heaven. What happens when your soul goes to heaven is whether you advance in the realms or not. And that is entirely determined by how you live that life. Because religions are supposed to teach you how to live a good life. But you can live a good life and help others without religion. Now, religions do bring social interactions and do a lot of good, charities. But think about all of the people that lived before Jesus walked the earth. Christianity didn't exist. So Christianity obviously wasn't the path for all those people for those thousands of years that lived before Jesus walked the earth, because it doesn't exist. When you channel and speak with all of these people, the prophets, and I've channeled Moses. Sunday morning, we just did John the Baptist. We channeled him on the Sunday show. We did the weekend before, we did Joseph, father of Jesus. I channeled Jesus every Wednesday morning with his message. Muhammad, we published a book about him, his true words. And it's always the same. The basic foundation they were sent back with is always simply how you live your life and how you help others.
So, Barry, switching gears a little bit, because you did bring up Jesus, and this seems to be a theme. We talk about him quite a bit with our guests. Some people think he was an ascended master, but I've also heard the idea that he might also be an alien, an extraterrestrial that was sent to our Earth to help us raise our level of spirituality and consciousness. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Who is Jesus and who is he to our planet?
Real simple. Jesus was God incarnate. When he walked the earth, he would tell people that he was the Son of God. But he would never tell anyone that he was truly God incarnate, because he did not want to be associated with the hundreds of Roman gods. If he would have said that, then the people would have said, oh, yeah, another one. He never told anyone truly what he was. But the fact that he truly was God can be seen in the Shroud of Turin. To create that image of that type on that cloth, the energy far exceeds anything that humans at this time are capable of. I did a whole video on this thing with all the technical aspects of it, but the energy that had to be used for the resurrection had to be as great as that of the sun itself. So the miracle of the resurrection absolutely proves that he was God incarnate. There is absolutely no way to explain that image on that cloth, but one way, and it's through the amount of energy that was required to do it. We can't even come close to it today. In 325 AD, when Constantine calls the Conference of Nicaea, they did not even know when he was crucified, the month or the date. The main thing was to clarify. They were celebrating Easter and Passover were in conflict. So they wanted to resolve that. The Christians of the time were having riots on whether Jesus was a prophet or whether he was a deity. So within 300 years, they had lost so much context. They select 27 books of the Gospels, the 300 presented. And Constantine picks books that are similar in nature. He throws out the Gnostics. He picks books that are going to be politically popular because he's trying to calm all this rioting between the Christians down. So you've got all of these influences going into the writing of the Bible. I mean, the fact that there were hundreds of Gospels that were created. Then you have the Christian writers coming in and changing it because Jesus, he spoke so simply that the Christian writers couldn't believe how simply he was speaking. He spoke to the common person. They were not educated. They were carpenters. So he had to speak simply. But then you take the modern writings and the Gospels that are accepted now, you're seeing all this complexity that scholars still can't explain. And that's because of the different people that rewrote the words of the different Gospels through the years. The popes of the church, the Catholic Church controls it for 1,500 years. And Rome changes things because they were very politically powerful. The Gospels change. The truth is still the utter simplicity. From the time Jesus was crucified in 30 AD, they start to try to put the Gospels together in 325 AD. That's basically 300 years have elapsed. That is longer than the United States has been in existence.
Add to that there are Gospels that are purposefully omitted from the Bible now, so that we're led astray compared to the information that we should be given.
Yeah, and so many of them were destroyed. I mean, many of the great books that were just simply destroyed through the years. When Jesus was crucified, he had his followers and his disciples, but he still wasn't highly regarded as an individual whose words you'd want to keep other than within that small circle. For them to write those words down, the Romans would kill them. So much of it was just kept in through memory, and the stories were passed on because they were actually afraid to write some of this down. That's why you see it's 2 generations before you see the first actual writings start to appear. Religion is very common sense when you break it down to the basics. God sends Muhammad back around 600 AD because Christianity isn't being adopted by the people of the Middle East. They're tribal. They can't break down the tribal structures. They're still using multiple gods. So he sends Muhammad back to speak of the one God, Allah. Well, you can refer to God, the energy of God, any way you want, because God has no form. He's this universal energy. But when you look at all of the guys that are sent back, they're basically sent back to bring structure and service to a single God, whatever name. It doesn't matter how you refer to God, or it shouldn't.
Well, this is fascinating, and I could talk for days about this stuff with you because you're full of information. But I want to switch gears because there's a topic that is near and dear to both Tracy and I's hearts that you speak about, which is aliens.
Oh, yeah.
And from what I understand, you have actually had your own experience meeting an alien in person in the flesh. And I would love to hear about that.
Okay. I probably should fill a little background in for you on this before we get to the story. I can channel aliens because they have the exact same soul energy as humans. Now, human soul energies have been around since creation. They haven't just been created. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. That is truth. So where do you think your human souls were before humans walked the earth?
Good point. Somewhere.
On other civilized planets. So we've all been aliens. It's just a matter of when in your prior lives you were an alien. Because humans have only been here for 250,000 years. And other planets have been around for billions. That's how your souls learned lessons to progress in the realms, by living on other planets. So I can channel an alien because it has the exact same soul energy as you or I do. So that's the background. So I was writing my conspiracy book, and one of them was, do aliens exist? And the guides told me, well, this is so complex that we're going to have to let you speak to one yourself. I went, okay. So the next challenge session we did, they introduced us to an alien spirit. His name was Mu, because he spoke a language that none of us had ever heard, could understand, or even try to pronounce. So he said, just call me Mu. He said, I'll be with you for 2 to 3 years. They want you to write a couple books about the information I give you, and then I'm going to leave once I give you the information. So I wrote 2 books about aliens based on channeling Mu. So anyway, I'm in the process of writing these books, and I know they wanted to know whether I was really trusting and whether I had fear or anything. So we were sleeping in our apartment in Pennsylvania, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I looked over and I saw this big form standing, and we had night lights and stuff. So I look over and here's this huge form standing about 7 foot. And I thought I was dreaming. Cleared my head and I looked again. It had a short reptilian nose and it had teeth inside. It looks over at me and smiles. And then, bam, I'm knocked right back out. My wife has been abducted. We know all the information, no question about it. So I woke up and I'm thinking, I bet you she got abducted again. And I'm going. So I told her about it. We get up in the morning. I said, look, unto God, I saw an alien standing by the bed last night. And it looked at me, but I never mentioned the word smile. Okay. And it knocked me out, and I'm not really sure whether I dreamt it or what. I'm pretty sure I saw this thing. So our friends that taught us board channeling in Salt Lake City, we get them on Skype that night, and they know zero. They don't know I've seen an alien. They know nothing about this. And I said, I have to ask you a question. I said, will you get Mu's presence over? And they said, yes, he's here. And I said, Mu, did I see an alien last night? In Salt Lake City, our friends channeled the message, yes, and did you see him smile at you? And no one, not even my wife, knew he had smiled.
And why did he come to you? Did you find out what the purpose of that visit?
To see if I was afraid of them, because they knew that to advance, I had to do some things. And I had no fear. I mean, I sat there and looked at him. I thought, that's weird.
So he was a reptilian, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. I get a lot of comments anytime people meet me who are into these types of topics. I get all the time that I look like a Pleiadian. Everyone always says that to me, which I'll take as a compliment.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
But my question about that is, are there physical people or beings, I should say, on this planet that are not of human origin that would be considered extraterrestrial that are living here walking among us?
Absolutely. And Palladians are the largest population group among us.
Really?
I worked with a psychic that was a Palladian, and she didn't even know it. They told her she was Palladian, and she goes, "Oh my God, that explains so much of my life." There's also shapeshifters.
Hmm.
When my wife, when she was abducted, she was driving her automobile, and there was this period of 12, 15 miles. She was not in her car when she comes back. And the answer to how they did it, we asked Moo how they did the abduction. And he said that it was very easy when you know how. And he said, we just simply put a shapeshifter in the car to drive while she was in the ship.
And how can we identify if we're, let's say, working or with an extraterrestrial, or you're at the grocery store? Is there something we can do to identify if that's what we're seeing, or if somebody is one? How can they know if they are one?
Well, as I said, I worked with this woman, and she was one and didn't know it. I mean, they've been around for thousands of years, and they just simply have adapted with humans. And
how did she find out eventually that she was one? Was it through past life regression or channeling?
So she had come to us for channeling because I could speak with them. And somehow or other the subject came up. Oh, I said, have I ever been with a Palladian? And the answer comes back, you're sitting next to one. And I went, whoa. So that's how I found out just how close we were to them. There's Palladians in our government. They're everywhere.
And how can we tell which ones are the ETs?
They won't quite tell us yet. We're getting disclosure started. So we're in the process of disclosure right now. So I have no doubts there's going to be a time that they'll let us know just who it is. But they won't say, oh, he's one, that kind of thing. Moo was familiar with over 350 types of aliens. The Nazca lines in Peru. Are you familiar with them?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the big spider form in the Nazca lines?
Yes, I've seen it on a map.
Okay.
Yes.
That is the image of the aliens that helped them make the lines. We're spider people, and that spider stood between 6 and 7 foot tall. How would you like to meet an alien? Spider-Man.
Can I specify which species I would like to meet?
You can specify. It might be out of your hands.
Right.
That is so funny. I love it. You're right, Barry. Be careful what you wish for. There's gonna be well, she's not afraid of spiders and snakes, so I don't know.
I'm
not.
7 foot tall.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be.
That's true. It might be a little bit of a different story if
die.
it's twice my size.
I'd be less afraid of a ghost than an alien.
Oh, there's nothing to be afraid of ghosts. We have.
Yeah, I'm the opposite.
We have them running around here in the house. I mean, they're human souls. They're the same thing. They just form up for you. And
well,
okay, but if you don't want them, can you sage to get rid of whatever possible spirits, or that doesn't really work?
Oh, my personal feeling is that's all a waste of time. If you want them to go away, ask your spirit guides to remove them. Pray to your spirit guides and say, would you please ask them to remove because they're doing damage, making me nervous, whatever. That's the most effective way to work it. We just talked to them directly. We had a ghost dog in here that was chasing our cats. Our cats wouldn't come out from under the bed. So I talked to Bodhi, and I said, Bodhi, what's the matter? Why are you so afraid? And she says, Roar. I said, who's Roar? The dog. It's chasing us. It's a ghost. So we got Roar on the ghost line, and we said, Roar, you got to get your butt out of here. This is a cat house. And he left.
Go to the neighbors next door.
Yeah. There may be cats somewhere else.
They're dog people.
Yeah. Yeah. Go bug a dog person.
Go haunt a dog person's house.
Yeah.
Okay. So what planet do all of these aliens come from? There must be like hundreds, I mean, how do you keep track of them all?
There's hundreds, and if there's 300 types, there's over 300 planets in our galaxy alone. I'm just talking about our galaxy.
Right.
But there's well over 300 planets. It's a whole community. There's a government that controls them, and they don't mean us harm. If they meant us harm, we'd be gone. They got incredible.
Is that the
weapons.
Galactic Federation, by the way?
It's one way to refer to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you happen to know which species the humans come from?
Humans are a separate species, just the same as reptilian. There are multiple types of reptilians. That's a bad example. Just the same as Pleiadians are a separate species. But only the human species only exists on this planet.
But where are we originated from a different species, or did they just?
No, we got originated, started from scratch, messed a few things up, but I guess he got a couple things right.
They broke the mold.
Yes. From him trying to get things straight here, he's probably very happy he broke it.
If you were to get a time down for disclosure, what do you think? I know we're starting it, but full disclosure.
It depends how fast the average public comes around. They tested it back with that War of the Worlds show, and they had people jumping off buildings. But with social media, we're so much more familiar with it. If I had to pick, 10 years.
Really? Still?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They just don't believe when they see things.
It's hard. I mean, it is a lot. I mean, if a gray alien came right down into my yard right now, it would scare the poop out of me.
I'm sure.
But even though I'm there and I'm believing that things happened, and it would still be scary to me. I'm like Tara, who would invite him in for some tea.
It'll take place like the Pleiadians will come forward first. The shapeshifters, you'll see them evolve into other shapes. But you'll see it'll be a very gradual thing because so many people just absolutely refuse to believe anything. I mean, if you don't believe in God, how are you going to believe in an alien?
True, but I don't see how anything will really change until that information is truly out there and we just go for it and just let everyone know, because I think there's always going to be people who don't believe. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Okay, but here's a real problem. There are many evangelical Christians that will tell you that aliens are demonic. Now, how do you think the presence of a real alien is going to handle this whole huge group of Christianity?
Yeah, but I just don't think that those people are ever going to change their mind. So we have to move forward with the progression of our species, regardless of those people that are just stuck in the old mindset.
Sadly, it's money. I mean, it comes down to money. I mean, the most influential, like the Vatican, is one of the most wealthiest churches ever in the history of ever.
Absolutely.
And what do you think that would do to them? I mean, the Catholicism, it's just, it's money, honestly. Like it would destroy lives, but it would pretty much bring down a very large part of the world who have taken a lot of money for these religions.
Yeah, well, we've been working with aliens for a long time. There are actual places where they work with them. They'll be bringing people out with life plans that are more adaptive to learning about aliens. I mean, you guys are more adapted to accepting aliens than anybody that came in my generation. So that's how progress has got to be made. It's going to be through updating the different life plans, and the generations will change, and people will learn that they help. I mean, we have so many things to thank them for. MRI machines, aliens gave us that. They worked with Dr. Salk for the polio vaccine. We channeled with Salk, and he admitted he worked with some really bright aliens that helped lead him to it. Salk never made any money off of that. He just put it out for mankind. That's because he was given this divine help with aliens to help show him the way.
Hopefully it's like the 100th monkey experiment, where as our consciousness grows, even those who don't understand why they have a different belief system, they just adopt it because it's in the ether and it's something that they're just exposed to.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a time they look up and they go, oh, yeah, that's real. Because there's this big ship over top of you. Their base ship is as big as the United States. They have it hidden behind Saturn right now. No, we are in rapid technological change. There's no question.
I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe that we come back. However, as we continue to grow as a species on this planet, do souls like split off? I mean, we have all these different lives. Like, where do these souls go? Like, why, if we start off with Adam and Eve and now we have billions, those two souls are now like, how does that work?
Well, first of all, you didn't start out with Adam and Eve. It was an evolutionary process. God actually tried on 3 different occurrences to seed life on this planet. The one that failed before he tries humans was water creatures. And that is why you have mammals that are water creatures. Because he tried to seed life on the planet by creating mammals in the water. And he realized that they weren't going to do it. So then he creates apes, that type of thing. He realizes that apes aren't going to have the capacity to advance to where humans have to go, because humans must learn to travel the stars, or if they're to exist in the long run, because there's going to be a time that this planet's not going to support life, and they'll have to reestablish. But then he decides that apes won't do it, so he creates what has been referred to as the missing link. But he kept advancing. The water mammals wouldn't work. The ape mammals wouldn't work. So now he comes and puts the so-called missing link in, and he creates a humanoid that is able to advance and grow and learn. And you go through the Neanderthals and all the different types of human growth. But he didn't want to just snap his fingers and do this. He wanted humans to learn. He felt that if they had all this evolutionary history, the odds of them being able to exist in the long run would be much better. So that is how everything has come about as we're sitting here today. We're sitting here because of human evolution.
Okay, so what is your understanding of karma and how does that work?
Karma is incredibly real. Karma is what you create. It's the yin and the yang. If you do something bad, then you have created a bad karma that has to be off-weighed in the future. Now, karmas can go over many future lifetimes, because a truly evil person is going to hurt many people, and they will have to make that up to those souls. So they will have to live future lives. The one that he speaks about the most about karma are the people that he has blessed with great wealth and do not use it to help others. The karma that they create is that their future lives will be ones of poverty, so that they can truly understand what it is like to have nothing. So God blesses many people with great wealth, but he expects you to use it to help others. If you don't, you create a karma, and your future life plans, the lessons that you will learn in those future life plans, will be the karma that you create in this one. You help people in this life, you create a good karma. And that good karma follows through in your future life plans. So maybe in a future life plan, because of the good karma, you're blessed with great wealth as a test to see if you truly learned your lesson of helping others. You use that great wealth to help others, and you advance in the realms of heaven. The whole role is to try to get into the 7th realm of heaven, where God is, where the God energy is. Jesus is the human form of God energy. You'll never see God because he's energy, but you will see the form of Jesus because Jesus is the human form. Now, when God's on another planet, Jesus does not exist, because on those other planets, the God form is whatever form is on that planet.
So by that account, conversely, would challenges that you face in this life be the result of karma from a prior life, possibly?
Quite possibly, yes. Your prior life is totally affected by your lives that go before. Every moment of your life, you're creating karma, good or bad. People that live a good life create good karma. You lead a bad life, you don't believe in God. One of the worst karmas that you can create is being an atheist and leading an individual away from God, leading others away, because now you're affecting other life plans. It's one thing if you simply want to screw your life plan up, but if you want to screw the life plan of others as well, that's a big no-no. Prayer is the universal way that you talk to your guides, to the saints, the angels. I've channeled 20 different archangels, and that's what my last book is, Modern Messages of the Archangels. Angels are not understood at all because they're basically energies that nobody sees. And when they form, they come in human form as well as angelic forms. Most times that angels form, they form as a human, and you'll never know that you were talking to an angel.
Thank you so much, Barry. We just appreciate you sharing that information. And so for anyone listening, you can go to Barry's website, which we'll include in the description, to find all of his books, the 10 books that he has written so far. He also has a podcast, as we mentioned, a radio show, and a YouTube channel. Again, all of the links will be in the description of the video. And so, Barry, just as we wrap up here, can you please leave us with one final positive message for anyone listening?
Why don't I channel a message from a very, very important spirit for you? I hope that all of you that have listened today have learned that truly God exists. You must know that if you follow his simple commands of not doing anything to anyone that you do not want done to yourself, that you will truly bring the light of God upon you, and that when you return to my heaven, that you will truly understand the glory that your soul can truly engage in. Just simply do good to others, love God, and help lead others to me. So I am blessing all of you that are listening to this message. And I want to thank all of you for opening your hearts and believing the words that you hear. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for being our guest today. We really appreciate your time and sharing your gift with us. So thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Hi, Barry.